We're here at the Minneapolis Area Association of Realtors with our resident data specialist, David Arbit.
Hello.
What's your official title, David?
Oh, gee, what do they call me now? Director of Research and Economics, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Pretty exciting stuff.
So David mostly combs through our data that we get from the MLS and possibly other sources you could tell us about.
Sometimes other sources.
And is able to give us kind of a snapshot of what the market looks like in terms of, days on market, average sale price, hot areas of the city and such. So let's start with just a general question. Generally, what are we seeing in the market, Twin Cities?
Yeah, so the trend has mostly been positive. That continues. So talking about just last year, we saw sales rise. We did see listings fall a little bit, which means it's a good time to be a seller. But we did see buyer activity rise to pretty much all-time highs. Buyers are motivated by low interest rates, rising rents, a pretty good jobs market, labor market. Wages are doing pretty good. That's some of that other, economic data, some of the wage growth stuff that we monitor. So buyers are really motivated. The struggle, as it has been for years, is inventory. So that's kind of the pain point. But there's two sides to every coin. Sellers like not having a lot of competition. Sometimes buyers looking for some particular things are finding they've got to make a couple offers on a couple different listings and really stick with it and be persistent. But overall, homes are selling quickly, prices are rising, and it's a healthy market where people are able to get their needs met and reach their real estate goals.
Awesome.
There you go.
So I think last year we were talking about 13, 14-year low inventory.
We are at a 15-year low.
15-year low, so
Officially.
that is continuing.
That has continued, yeah. So some of you remember the last cycle peak back in 06, 07. We had about 28, almost 30,000 active listings. End of last year, we had about 7,500. So that's been a huge change. But there are, at least a couple thousand new listings every month. So, sellers are bringing their product, bringing their properties onto the market. Buyers are just finding, especially those looking for 3 bedrooms on the main level laundry, ramblers, specific things. You got to make offers right away, and you got to make strong offers right away. So that's kind of what we're finding.
Do you guys have any data on how many houses are sold before they hit the MLS?
MLS did a study on that 2014 or 2015. I don't think they've done another one since. But what they found was out of the 55,000 homes that sold that year, 4,000 were withheld, and I think not even half, and over half of those did come on the MLS.
Okay. So
it's not a big share, but it is a thing that's going on. That's a little bit more on the MLS side than on the association side, at least at this point it is. But yeah, we do have a tremendous MLS who's, I know, looking at all that stuff and thinking about that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I feel like I've seen that pick up just amongst realtors, seeing the importance of that networking with our fellow realtors to get into those listings maybe a little bit earlier than someone else.
We have been hearing whispers of this.
You got to do what you got to do to represent your clients. So I'm curious what you think, and this is sort of a little bit of prediction. What do you think is going to happen with these rising interest rates? Are we going to see a easing of that demand?
Good question. So this is one of the most popular questions you'll see in blogs, forums, economics articles, housing articles. You'll see people asking questions about the effect of rising interest rates. So let's just dispense with the 800-pound gorilla. We are in a rising rate environment. Right. One of the reasons Wall Street's had a little volatility lately is because we've had some changing expectations around inflation. When we see wage growth stronger than average, when we see inflation readings from the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Stats, looking at the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, some of those other sources for you. When we see those things rising, traders think it's going to force the Fed's hand to start to raise interest rates sooner to calm down that inflation, to make sure we don't have this runaway economy and kind of get us into a bubble again. Who's excited about bailing out all the big banks again? Yeah, probably not most of you, and not us. So one of the sort of obvious ones is, there's a calculation. So I'm going to misquote it, but for every quarter, so for every 0.25 points, so like from 4.25 to 4.5% on a 30-year, what does that generally impact, $25 a month, on the payment side? Yeah. And some people say that means, maybe that'll affect home prices, or every 1/10 of a point might affect home prices by $1,000. So if interest rates go from 4.3 to 5.3, that could put $5,000 to $10,000 worth of pressure. Here's the thing. I think we still have such an imbalance between supply and demand that I think that's the most powerful factor driving this market. And remember, we were really heavy on condos at the last cycle peak in 06, 07, which tend to be smaller and tend to be stacked vertically, a little bit more affordable. This time, we've shifted to single family, which tend to, because they have their own four walls, tend to be a little bit of a premium. They have their own lot, 1/4 acre, 1/3 of an acre, 1/10 of an acre if you're in the city, whatever it is. Still better than Chicago and some other areas. And so we find that the shift, and don't forget the shift from foreclosures and short sales back to traditional equity sales, these are the factors that are continuing to pressure prices. We don't see that abating. So maybe rising interest rates will cause a little bit of a cooling on the demand side, which could be exactly what the market needs to take that pause, allow some sellers to kind of catch up, and allow a pause for some buyers to maybe save for a down payment for another year or two, and another couple years of maybe wage growth. And so all these things put together shouldn't really be cause for concern or alarm. And the other big part, I should have mentioned this at first. Okay, so rates are 4 1/3, 4 1/4, 4 1/3. Most folks are predicting that they should be below 6% for several years to come. And do you know our long-term average on a 30-year? Pop quiz.
Teens, low teens?
No, not quite that bad. It's about 8%, 8 1/4. So we were at 4%. We were at 3.3%. Then we were at 4%. Now we're 4.3. We're still about half of our long-term average. So even if we go to 5%, that's still 40% cheaper than our long-term average. So it's still going to be historically an attractive affordability environment.
And I don't know if you saw this article, but maybe
some
people did. Star Tribune, it was an op-ed written by a financial advisor. I don't know if it was like an Associated Press. It might have run nationally. But their thing was, this tax reform is going to kill the housing market. They went as far as saying, if you are thinking about buying a house, save your money, the market's going to soften. It was honestly, David, boy. I will send you this article because it was, I was compelled to read it. And I just thought it was so silly because to me, the things that drive our market, and I work with a lot of first-time home buyers, and their reasons are really a lot removed, I think, from some of those financial advantages. Certainly, there are some people thinking about the tax benefits of home ownership, but mostly it's the rental market, specifically in the Twin Cities. We've got 2-3% vacancy. Yeah, prices are super high. Most people can buy for the price of renting.
That's right.
And just having that autonomy, I think the younger generations are, they want to. I'm seeing a lot of people looking for duplexes.
Oh yeah, for some cash flow.
Yeah. Owner-occupying duplexes.
Makes sense.
Just kind of getting into that housing market and seeing the value of that. So my perspective, I'm curious about yours, although I have an inclination I might know, is that I don't think we're going to see a softening of the market, at least due to the tax reform or rising interest rates.
I would tend to agree, and most analysts would agree with us. So we have that going for us. That's a nice thing. The big message from a lot of the analysis happening at really good, Brookings Institution, tax policy center. There's a lot of really good, nonprofits, banks, investment firms who do good analysis on this. The Midwest is likely to be spared the most negative effects of the tax bill. High-priced coastal markets, San Francisco, LA, Portland, Seattle, Boston, DC, New York, where prices, therefore mortgage interest, and taxes, therefore SALT deductions, state and local tax deductions, are much, much higher. So you're much more likely to see those impacts on the coasts than in the Midwest. Now, for the Midwest, we are a fairly affluent region, and so we have, compared to rural Kansas, we have high home prices. Compared to Connecticut, Massachusetts, California, and Washington, we have tremendously affordable home prices. And actually, if you look at that price to income ratio, we're still better than 90% of the metros out there. So we're doing really well. It may change the incentive picture when we look at mortgage interest deductibility. It may change the picture for some folks on the high end here. In the luxury market, million plus, obviously the effects are going to be more felt there than at our median. And our median's about 240, 250 grand. And that's that point where half the homes are above that, half the homes are below. So I think that midpoint is a much better sort of middle point where most families and most individuals are. So the impact should be really minimal. And remember, even though MID is kind of capped up to $750,000 on the balance, it was going to be $500,000. We wanted no cap, then we were willing to go to $1 million. They went in the middle at $750,000. But it's really not going to have a huge impact locally. And remember, the standard deduction doubled from 6 to 12 or 12 to 24 for families. So that will have an offsetting effect, but it does change the incentive picture a little bit. But like you said, people still need a place to live. People still want that place to appreciate as an asset as well. And so we don't see that picture changing all that much despite this bill.
Yeah, I'm going to send you this article.
Right?
And obviously, both of us are in the business of wanting to get people in homes, and but I just don't think the data supports that grim picture here.
No, not at all.
So if I was a seller and I was thinking, okay, 2018 is going to be the year to sell my house, should I wait till the spring?
If you want more competition. So we're late Feb, early March. I mean, spring market's gearing up. We're seeing sellers gearing up. A lot of people get their listings on in March. A lot of people get them on in February. Get them on Feb, March, hoping to get some offers April, May, maybe close June 15th and June 30th are huge closing dates. So that's kind of the process. But remember, days on market is 50 days on average, 55 days. Yeah. The median is 27. So that's actually under a month. And I think that was a 2017 annual figure. Of course, winter takes a little longer to sell. Spring, summer, a little bit less time to sell. So you can kind of play with that. And so you still have to be staged well. You still want to be a clean, a nice clean listing. Don't give people a reason, not to make offers. Even though it is a seller's market, sellers still have to be priced right. So, we really advise sellers to work with their agents closely on pricing. They've got the comps. They're the professionals. Trust these folks. I know sometimes there's an emotional point of price, but there's also a market with a lot of data out there, and you still have to be priced in tune with the marketplace. So keep that in mind.
Where do you see noticeable heating up? So I feel like in the last year, Richfield, Bloomington have just exploded.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing some of the northern suburbs kind of coming up too. So
still some pockets. There's still some pockets of affordability up there,
yeah,
which is really interesting. Remember, there's still a ton of new construction in Blaine. Why? They're buying farmland and converting and subdividing them. So you can't really do that in the Richfields, South or North Minneapolis, or St. Louis Park is hot. Richfield's hot. Minnetonka, Edina. You're getting above that 400, 450 price point. So you have some affordability concerns there. But Edina is really hot. St. Louis Park hot. Yeah, people are focused on the inner ring suburbs. Golden Valley to a lesser extent. Some folks are finding value in the Brooklands. Roseville, Eagan seems to be really hot right now. I know, that's the St. Paul side of the river. By the way, folks, St. Paul, lovely suburb of Minneapolis. You might want to try it out. Somebody told me that joke. I had to share it. I like that one. So, yeah, people want to be close in. People want a little more square footage, a little more bang for their buck. So they're saying, if I can't find what I want in north, northeast, Longfellow, south, or southwest, and a lot of folks are being priced out of southwest just because of what's been happening there. They're finding, okay, they're having the conversation, honey, let's just go one suburb down. So they're saying Richfield. Some folks are even being priced out of Richfield, so they're saying, let's try Bloomington. And a lot of folks are finding success there. Some folks are doing the Burnsville thing and crossing the river. Depends on your commuting preferences and where you work, and so it's obviously a personal decision, but the inner ring suburbs tend to be really hot, and we've had this back to the city movement. People want to be back in the city. Northeast is hot, North is hot, North Loop is still hot on the condo loft side, and Mill District is hot. We're still building some apartments, some condos in the Mill District area, which is really popular with millennials and baby boomers, our two biggest home buying generations.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy out there with the millennials getting into the market.
It is.
And how that's shifting things, and how that's shifting, this traditional idea of kind of like, get the money, move out to the suburbs, get land. And now it's like, nope, stay in the city, in a walkable area, buy dog parks and
light rail or something. Yeah, right.
Public transportation.
Right.
So this is something that I know we at the association have been talking about for a while. The 10-year condo
statute. The statute of limitations, yes. So this is a big one. So what we're finding, well, first let me say, because of our RPAC, because of the Realtors Political Action Committee, we have had some important successes on sort of toning that law down a little bit. So I think we decreased the time from 10 to 7 years, I think, or 10 to 6. Don't quote me on that. Eric, our government affairs guy, would know more about that, and he was on recently.
He was
on
just
recently.
Talked about tax reform.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll have to get him
Okay. We'll come back. You'll come back in a month or two. Yeah.
So I think the prediction is that with the lessening of that, we're going to see more people building condos.
More people building. So they're doing apartments for now, and then they're kind of transitioning those apartments to condos later, but they're building them condo quality. But there's a lot of demand for apartments, so they're meeting that demand, but the statute is only, I think, 3 years on apartments, and I think it's 7 years on condos.
Yeah, we got it down from 10,
I think we got it down from 10, and the HOA has to have a majority of owners sign on to mediation. They have to agree to a strict maintenance plan, and prove that they followed it and everything. So developers have been risk averse because of this litigation, this risk of lawsuits. They have to hold 30% contingency funds in liquid capital in case something like that happens. So that forces them to one, pursue higher margin projects, which may be luxury, which is fine and needed, but probably not as needed as more of our affordable. We're talking a lot about workforce housing. So, we want to roll back some of that regulatory framework, not so much that it harms consumers, but we do want developers to be able to build profitably and build affordable units profitably. And it is hard to do that with such stringent regulation and with that threat of lawsuit at every turn. So 10 years, that's a long liability tail. That's a pretty long tail. So, we have had some accomplishments. We think there's still work to be done, but know that on projects like the one on Washington Avenue, Mill City or Mill District Apartments, Mill City Apartments, the one with Zenbox Izakaya, that one by Spaghetti Factory and the Sawadi. That's one where if you look at it, you can see that they've got those little vents, the dryer vents in every unit. And you can see they got the water roughed in, so they're ready to, so you can kind of tell that those are probably likely to convert once that liability tail has passed.
Because that could, volume-wise, help ease a lot of the shortage we're seeing.
It could. And we need it. We need more.
Yeah.
We need more of everything.
Yeah, so this is very informative. Anything that we didn't cover that you think is just interesting, must-know information?
Nothing goes straight up or straight down forever, does it?
No.
So some people are asking questions. We're in a pretty long part of this cycle, about 10 years of expansion from 07, 08. So we are in a pretty long part of the cycle. People shouldn't be afraid if we flatline for a year or two. It's really nothing to fear. It's actually a healthy thing that the market can kind of calm down, cool, consolidate before taking its next steps or its next legs higher. And people should also understand that going all the way back to 1960, we've actually done this research, back to 1960, even after you account for inflation, your home will pay you about 1.8 to 2% per year after inflation. So not only do homes keep up with inflation, they deliver you about 2% on top of that inflation. So it's still a great long-term investment, even if prices are flat or only up 2% instead of 6% or 0% or down 1% or 2% for a year or two. It should not be cause for concern for agents, for homeowners, for prospective home buyers. If anything, just like when the stock market was down, see that as a buying opportunity, as a good opportunity to get in, to start to enjoy that equity and that appreciation long term.
Long term. It's always going up long term.
Always a long term. Volatility in the short term, but long term, it's one of the best investments anyone can make.
Oh, that's a nice note to end on.
There you have it.
So if anyone needs to... Oh, hi, Kyla. If anyone needs to get a hold of me, send me a direct message, or you can reach me by call or text, as always, 612-729-7239. Thanks, guys.